Hello, I'm Hickey from interest.co.nz and welcome to a special economic weather report brought to you in association with ASB. Today we look at the potential impact of the swine flu outbreak globally. Now it's not clear exactly how this impact will happen and how serious this swine flu outbreak is. We do know, of course, that at least 20 people have died in Mexico, that at least 20 people have contracted the disease in America, although no one has yet died. We know that several students in New Zealand picked it up while on a study trip to Mexico, and at least one of them has been hospitalised. But we don't know yet how serious this strain of flu is in terms of deaths, particularly in developed countries. But it's worth looking back at what happened with SARS to see how serious something like this can become and what impact it will have in a lasting way on GDP. China was the most affected by the SARS outbreak, and many people believe that's where it started. They were also quite slow to react, at least initially, and that had a significant impact on activity in the area, at least for a couple of months. And Chinese GDP, according to some measures, fell 0.8% because of the SARS outbreak. GDP that year still grew, but just not quite as fast. Hong Kong was hit quite severely as well for a couple of months. Retail sales dropped sharply and there was a downturn in the property market, but it was a fleeting impact. The same with Singapore, where I know because I lived there for a period over 2003 when the SARS impact came along. There was a significant downturn in activity in the retail sector. People weren't going to movies, and in some cases people worked from home or didn't work at all. But it was only short. And you could argue SARS seems to be a much more serious event than this swine flu example. But it all depends too on the spread of the disease, how quickly it goes to various countries, and how fatal it is, frankly. Obviously, the more fatal, the more damage it's going to do. Not so much in the pure deaths, but in the fact it will restrict global trade, tourism, and activity on the ground. I mean, if people aren't going to school, they're not going to work, that's going to have a real impact. We're a long way from that yet. Global tourism may be one of those that's hit hardest, particularly at the moment where people are less likely to travel long distances. Maybe this will be the thing that tipped them over the edge to not going at all. And New Zealand has quite a lot to lose here, as much because the initial coverage of this event has identified New Zealand as one of the places where swine flu has come to first. For whatever reason, New Zealand has been mentioned as the place where swine flu has travelled to. The Rangitoto College students are at the top of the news bulletins for the BBC World Service, for the Bloomberg front page, and for other TV and news sites globally. So that could have an impact. People see New Zealand as a place not to go to because we appear to have the swine flu very early on. Now, I think some of the reason that we're being picked on, I suppose, here is that New Zealand is an English language nation. Very easy to read our websites from far away and to pick up the story and to run with it. Also, there's television coverage now which is being picked up and rerun. And we're also seeing, of course, that we're quite open about what has happened. We've got the health department talking regularly, various peoples at the schools and others. So that means that we're up there on the front page more than perhaps some other countries. And that may have an impact in New Zealand. But again, very early days. And you'd have to say the predictions during the SARS outbreak right at the beginning were much worse than actually was the case. I'm Hickey. That was a special economic weather report brought to you in association with ASB.